Welcome to Panda Tale. I hope you have a great time listening to the story. If you enjoy it, don't forget to give me a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. My husband had a concubine whom he extremely despised. He respected me as his legitimate wife yet doted excessively on the newly acquired beauty. Only towards her was he cold and harsh. At the slightest provocation, he would scold and confine her. I sympathized with the poor girl in this household, so I always protected and cared for her. But I never expected that after I died in childbirth, my husband immediately elevated her to be his legitimate wife, bestowing upon her all of my dowry. Only then did I realize that Alexander Hamilton's cold treatment of her wasn't because he didn't love her, but because he loved her too much and used deception to protect her. I was furious. Now that I've been reborn, I want to see, without my help, how much hardship can this so-called true love endure. Victoria, this is Sophia Snow that mother insists on giving to me. You don't need to worry about her. You are my wife, one lifetime, one couple. I only have feelings for you. As soon as I opened my eyes, I saw my husband Alexander Hamilton intimately holding my hand by the bed, speaking words both affectionate and heartless. Below, a woman in coarse cloth was kneeling with her head bowed, her expression unclear, holding up a teacup with both hands, waiting for me to accept it. I immediately realized I had been reborn, back to the second day after our wedding, when the concubine Sophia was serving tea to me for the first time. In my previous life, I accepted it without guard, not expecting the tea to be so scalding hot that I couldn't hold the cup steady and it shattered on the ground. Sophia was so frightened she kowtowed repeatedly, the spilled tea mixing with her hair and tears. Her pitiful appearance, like pear blossoms drenched in rain, was truly heartbreaking, and I was caught up in Alexander's flustered concern. Where does it burn? Does it hurt? Let me blow on it, it won't hurt anymore. My mind in complete chaos. One person being tenderly held in her husband's palm, one kneeling on the ground with tears streaming down. Such a stark contrast made outsiders think I had deliberately dropped the teacup. From then on, I gained a reputation for being jealous and mistreating the concubine. But at that time, I was immersed in Alexander's favoritism, not wanting to argue, only secretly rejoicing, thinking I had found a husband who truly loved me. I completely failed to notice that the pain in his eyes wasn't for me. Thinking of this, the burning sensation still seemed to linger on my fingertips. I withdrew my hand from Alexander's grasp, covered my knees with an embroidered handkerchief, and looked at Sophia, who appeared weak and harmless in the hall. This tea is too hot. I'll drink it when it cools. Without accepting it, she had no choice but to keep holding it up. Sophia didn't expect to be seen through by me. Hearing this, she instinctively raised her head, saw the ambiguous smile on my face, then quickly looked toward Alexander, conveniently switching fingers to hold the teacup. She must have been enduring the hot tea to her limit. Alexander, receiving the beauty's plea for help, immediately cleared his throat. If it's hot, change to another cup. I raised my hand to stop the servant who was about to step forward. My husband advocates thrift. The Hamilton household has large assets and many expenses. We must be even more economical. Wasting a cup of tea isn't good. It's not too late to drink when it cools. After speaking, I directly closed my eyes, ignoring the two people who had stiffened, letting the maid behind me massage my shoulders. The whole room fell silent. In my previous life, they said I was jealous and mistreated the concubine. If I don't put on a show, wouldn't that be a waste? After a while, I felt the pressure on my shoulders change slightly. It must be Alexander personally massaging his wife's shoulders, looking very affectionate. If it weren't for my soul lingering after death in my previous life, I might have always thought he loved me to the bone. Alexander came to propose to me personally. He said at the flower viewing banquet hosted by the eldest princess, he fell in love with me at first sight and must marry me. In my previous life, after marriage, we were even more loving and intimate. I thought we were a devoted couple, so I wholeheartedly managed the household, served my mother-in-law, treated the servants kindly, and was especially sympathetic to the concubines, particularly Sophia. She was my mother-in-law's cousin's daughter, betrothed to Alexander before birth, childhood sweethearts who grew up together. But when she came of age, her family fell into disgrace, and she became the daughter of a criminal. Not only was the engagement broken, but she could only become a concubine to her former fiancé. Looking back now, I was truly foolish. Knowing that Alexander broke the engagement because her family committed crimes, I should have known his true character. At first, I didn't believe they had no feelings for each other and was quite concerned. But Alexander treated her coldly and harshly, sometimes even I thought it was too much. He would scold her at the slightest provocation, deprive her of food and clothing, and even confine her frequently. I then believed my husband truly hated this concubine forced upon him by his mother. As a woman, I felt sorry for her fate and always took care of her. When the palace rewarded southern fruits, all the masters had some except Sophia. Alexander didn't give her any. I secretly sent my portion to her. Since my sister was the empress, such fruits weren't rare in the Sterling household, and I was tired of eating them anyway. In winter, every room had sufficient charcoal, thick cotton clothes, but Sophia's room only had last year's old cotton clothes and often lacked charcoal. Knowing the servants were bullying her, I specially reprimanded the steward and had my personal maid deliver new cotton clothes. When she was framed by other concubines and couldn't explain herself, only able to repeat, "I have 100 mouths but can't defend myself," Alexander didn't investigate and wanted to confine her. But I painstakingly investigated the truth, cleared her name and restored her freedom. Later, I died in difficult childbirth. I thought my life, though short, was fulfilling. But unexpectedly, after death, my soul didn't enter reincarnation but lingered in this world. I saw Alexander eagerly swallow my dowry and give it all to Sophia, immediately elevating her to be his legitimate wife, entering the palace to request an imperial title for her. Sophia completely transformed from her previous White Lotus suffering appearance, wearing brocade and Persian silk gifted by my sister, covered in gold, silver, and jewels like a butterfly finally seeing sunlight, showing off everywhere. At the same time, she withheld servants' rewards and made things difficult for other concubines. But Alexander didn't care at all, instead indulging her to act willfully. Watching the two of them being inseparable, I finally discovered that Alexander's cold treatment of her wasn't because he didn't love her, but because he treasured her so much that he used deception to protect her. It turned out they were playing me for a fool. My soul laughed and cried. Opening my eyes again, heaven had given me another chance. This time, I must carefully watch, without my help, how much hardship can this so-called true love that's been mistreated coldly actually endure. Coming back to my senses, enough time should have passed. I slowly opened my eyes. By now Sophia had endured until she was on the verge of tears, her arms trembling constantly, making the teacup lid clink. Only then did I reach out to accept it. Just as I brought it to my lips, I frowned. "This tea is cold." Her arm had just lowered when she heard this, and the tears pooled in her eyes finally fell, heartbroken to the extreme. Alexander couldn't sit still, urging the servants, "Hurry up, quickly change to another cup." When she offered another cup of tea with the right temperature, I finally drank it. After the tea ceremony, it was my turn to give a greeting gift. Everyone saw me caress my sleeve, passing over the transparent jade bracelet without a flaw, adjust the cloud-like hair, caress the heavy pure gold hairpin, then my fingers fell to the sparkling ruby earrings, but didn't stop there. Instead, I signaled for the maid to bend down, took a pair of ordinary pearl earrings from her hand, and ordered the maid to give them to Sophia. A gift from the mistress cannot be refused. She slowly reached out to accept them. Alexander beside me couldn't stand it anymore. "Victoria, this seems a bit beneath the dignity of the Hamilton household. If word gets out, I'm afraid it will damage our reputation." I blinked my innocent eyes and explained sincerely, "My husband doesn't understand my painstaking efforts. I see Sister Sophia dressed all in white, she must still be in mourning. But she only wears a pair of renegade bracelets on her hands, which isn't proper etiquette. I think perhaps she was careless, or her jewelry box lacks suitable ornaments. The jewelry I wear is too bright, so I could only specially find a pair of appropriate earrings to give her. To be complete. Husband, rest assured. My maid has followed me for a long time and received many rewards, so these pearl earrings aren't ordinary items. The value of this pair could equal Sister's entire worth." Seeing the two of them breathless and speechless, I smiled even more brightly. The Snow family's mourning period had long passed. She wore white only to show off her slender figure, and to make Alexander constantly pity her. But now they couldn't distinguish, if not mourning for her family, then mourning for the country. "His Majesty is still healthy, that would be great treason." They didn't dare. Alexander forced a smile and embraced my shoulders. Victoria is still the most thoughtful. It's getting late, we still need to pay respects to Mother. Seeing me nod obediently and follow along, the two secretly breathed a sigh of relief. I suddenly turned back, meeting Sophia's hateful and resentful gaze. I raised an eyebrow and smiled charmingly. Husband, I heard sister used to stay in Mother's courtyard. Now that she follows husband, naturally we must find her proper accommodation soon. I'm new here and unfamiliar with household matters. Perhaps husband should decide where sister should rest. Alexander's cheek twitched, gritting his teeth. Then the bamboo garden, I agreed, but was surprised inside. The bamboo garden is in the northwest, near the side gate, the most desolate place in the entire manor. In my previous life, Alexander didn't put her there. It sees the development of events will indeed change according to my attitude. At this moment, Sophia behind us couldn't bear it anymore, lowering her head and sobbing. That night, a servant reported that Alexander would sleep in the study. Then Emily quietly reported, I've investigated clearly. The master secretly took the small path to the northwest of the rear courtyard. Miss, should we? I sat at my dressing table, looking at my beautiful face in the mirror, and smiled mockingly. He must be rushing to comfort his beloved after she suffered injustice during the day. The person in the mirror shook her head. No matter, have someone prepare water for me to wash and retire. The maids busied themselves. After Emily finished removing my hairpins, I gave her a small brocade box containing gold, inlaid amber earrings. Trade these for your pearl earrings. Do you agree? These were the gift I gave Sophia in my previous life, worth 100 times more than the pearl earrings. Emily firmly accepted them, smiling so wide her eyes disappeared. Thank you, miss. Miss treats this servant so well. I was also infected by her joy, my eyes curving. With my dowry, these trivial things meant nothing to me. But in this life, I don't want to spend a single penny nurturing ungrateful betrayers anymore. In my previous life, I accidentally discovered Sophia staying up late embroidering handkerchiefs and learned that she was ashamed of her empty purse and could only rely on selling embroidered handkerchiefs for extra income. Previously, when she lived with my mother-in-law, she didn't need to worry about expenses for servants. But after becoming Alexander's concubine, all social obligations had to come from her own pocket. The Hamilton household had large expenses. When her family met disaster and the Hamilton household took her in, she didn't have a penny to her name. No dowry, no private business for income. Plus Alexander never rewarded her, so her monthly allowance was basically insufficient. That's why I always had servants sell her handkerchiefs for her, buying them back at many times the price, while instructing them not to reveal this matter. Now thinking back, saving money to spend on those who truly treat me well, isn't that more worthwhile? The next morning, I directly led people to the bamboo garden. Because Alexander had secretly come here, he didn't bring servants or announce himself. I stood in the courtyard full of fallen leaves. Through the thin cloth window, I could vaguely see the people inside had just woken up. Sophia was dressing Alexander. After a moment, she directly embraced him from behind, her voice gentle. Brother Alexander, I'm in such a broken courtyard, making it difficult for you to come see me. Alexander turned and pinched her nose. With you in my heart, naturally I'm willing to stay by your side. Not getting a satisfactory answer, Sophia paused, burying her face in his chest. Since I'm in your heart, why do you keep me in such a remote and cold place? In the future, if I want to see you once, I'll have to walk so far. Do you know? Yesterday when I first arrived, everywhere was dusty and covered in cobwebs. I had to clean for a long time before I could temporarily stay. Alexander lovingly embraced her, explaining affectionately, Yesterday the lady made things difficult for you. It must be because you showed too much, making her annoyed. If I don't show extreme dislike for you, when she gets jealous, won't you suffer more? I do this for your own good. She raised her head, tears glistening in her eyes. Brother Alexander, why are you so wary of her? She's just a secondary daughter of the Sterling household. How foolish. Although she's a secondary daughter, she was raised under her legitimate mother's name since childhood and has a very good relationship with the current empress. The Hamilton household's prosperity still depends on this connection, so naturally we must be careful. These harsh but honest words made me even more clear-headed. The reason father didn't refuse his marriage proposal was because Alexander came from the Hamilton noble house. His father died early, and his mother raised him alone. He inherited the title at a young age, becoming the youngest marquise in court, a match for me, the secondary daughter of the sterling household. Or rather, I was reaching above my station. But thinking back now, he actually valued my status as a secondary daughter that was easy to control, and valued my close relationship with my sister who had become empress. The Hamilton lineage had few descendants for generations, with weak branch families and no power in court, growing increasingly weak. There were no suitable young ladies in the imperial family, so he could only propose to me, becoming sworn brothers with the emperor to gain opportunities for promotion. In my previous life, I thought it was mutual affection. Right after marriage, I entered the palace to ask my sister to give him a position with real power. The current emperor greatly values the empress, so naturally he agreed to such a small matter. In this life, humph. The two in the room were still entangled. Rest assured, I won't change my heart. You must trust my feelings for you. We've had feelings for many years. If not for her family background, I wouldn't even look at her. Do you still remember the letter I sent you? Heaven never ages, love hard to sever. Sophia stopped crying and smiled, immediately speaking in unison with him. Hearts like silk nets, within are thousands of knots. Alexander nodded. Right. You understanding my heart is good. Bear with it for this period. Later I'll definitely repay you 1,000, 10,000-fold. Hearing this, I laughed coldly. Such big talk, 1,000, 10,000-fold. Let's see if you have that chance. Sophia shyly agreed, sitting down to serve him with his shoes. I'm mentally prepared to suffer hardship. Alexander was very satisfied with her attitude, pinching her cheek with a bright smile. Turning to open the door and coming face to face with me leading a group of servants in the courtyard. Victoria, why are you here? Alexander's smile froze on his face, his eyeballs trembling constantly. I pretended not to hear anything, the smile on my face unchanged, asking with concern. Yesterday Sister Sophia served me hot tea. I didn't notice her fingertips were burned. After returning, my maid told me and I learned about it. I felt guilty. After all, I was careless. It must have been the servants who brought the wrong tea, making Sister suffer. Such careless servants cannot be kept. So today I came early specifically to change Sister's servants to more attentive ones, to avoid such incidents in the future. After speaking, I pointed to the servants behind me who were looking down, saying nothing. Only then did he gradually relax, raising his hand to wipe the non-existent sweat from his forehead. No need. I interrupted him. Husband also came here to visit Sister. Alexander continuously denied. No, I was just taking a morning walk and passed by. After speaking, he pretended nothing happened and walked out. That's right, husband. I have burned medicine rewarded by the palace. I guarantee Sister will heal quickly without scars after using it. I deliberately called after him, but he didn't turn back. No need. Such a small wound will heal on its own. Her lowly status doesn't deserve such good things. I glanced and saw the light in Sophia's eyes suddenly dim. I smiled brightly and said loudly, "Then I'll listen to husband." Without Alexander's obstruction, the servants were still delivered to Sophia's courtyard. After returning, Emily asked puzzledly, "Madam specifically chose loyal servants for her. Why give them to her?" I flipped through the account book in my hand without looking up. Precisely because they're loyal, I can rest assured placing them beside Sophia to work for me. Besides, we have money, means, and people to teach us. Are we afraid of lacking loyal people? Moreover, no matter how stupid Sophia is, she won't use the people I send as personal maids, so they won't suffer with her, taking monthly wages leisurely without working. Their contracts are in my hands. If Sophia can't handle them, naturally that's a good thing. My actions this morning, personally visiting the concubine, giving people and medicine, will spread and ultimately leave me with a reputation for kindness and virtue. Alexander was probably afraid I'd become suspicious, so he didn't go to Sophia's place for a while, instead coming to my room daily to be affectionate. I didn't refuse either. After all, to turn the tables in this household, I urgently need an heir. Poor Sophia not receiving favor, the servants don't respect her. Unfinished clothes, cold leftover food at every meal. Besides the personal maid beside the mistress, other servants in the courtyard all went to eat communal meals without being affected. Only Sophia's personal maid Rose had to suffer. This maid once questioned the servants delivering food, but was mocked instead. Who told your Mrs. Courtyard to be the farthest? Isn't it normal for food to get cold? Instead of thanking us for traveling so far, you complain. With that time, why not think of ways to please the master? Such straightforward words made both mistress and servant furious. After Sophia finished being angry, the servants I placed beside her reported that she was about to come find me. In my previous life, she also came to plead with me. At that time, I angrily punished the related servants after hearing it, docking their monthly wages, making the servants resent me. Instead, Sophia not only restored her normal life but even received compensation from me. Her food was even better than mine as the legitimate wife. In this life, I won't kindly help anymore. Knowing Sophia was coming, I had someone invite Alexander. When she arrived, we were having dinner. She sniffed, glancing at the dining table, secretly swallowing saliva, then began crying and complaining. "Brother Alexander, you don't know how those servants mistreat me. The food delivered daily is all cold. What should clearly be vegetables is covered in a thick layer of lard. The duck soup is fishy to the point I can't swallow it. Sob, sob, sob. How long must I live like this?" Alexander glanced at my expression. Seeing I was unmoved, he had to take initiative to ask, "Victoria." I scooped a bowl of hot tofu and vegetable soup for him, looking gentle and obedient. Sister is husband's person. Naturally, I must listen to husband. His mouth twitched, having to continue playing his role, loudly scolding Sophia. "Having vegetables and meat is already 100 times better than common families. Yet you're here being picky. That's really unreasonable. Look at what the lady and I eat, isn't it also simple? Recently I've had poor appetite, so the kitchen deliberately made it easier to eat." At this moment, it was conveniently used by Alexander for comparison. Sophia cried and sobbed, wanting to explain a few words, but meeting the man's warning gaze, she had to forcefully hold back her grieved tears and bow to take her leave. After sending Sophia away, Alexander's gaze lingered on her back. Turning to see me watching him meaningfully, he immediately showed an ingratiating smile, picking up a piece of fish tail for me. "Victoria, come here. Don't let unrelated people disturb our meal." After dinner, Alexander approached me, stammering, "Victoria, I heard you entered the palace today. Did you meet the Empress?" No wonder he was anxious about his official position. Though he'd inherited the title for a while, he still hadn't entered court as an official, truly an idle person. If this continues, not only will he gradually fall to the family's secondary ranks, but eventually even future generations might forget the Hamilton household's existence. In my previous life, I asked my sister to get him into the censorate. Though the rank wasn't high, he could supervise and impeach all officials and could be valued by the emperor. Indeed, not long after, he made contributions in the Prince Qa rebellion case and was promoted to left vice-censor-in-chief with limitless prospects. In this life, I didn't enter the palace to request an official position for him, but for myself. In my previous life, difficult childbirth became a knot in my heart. Since being reborn, I must have an heir. But I was afraid, so I specifically asked the Empress to grant me an experienced palace nanny. The dirty tricks in the palace are even worse than outside. Having an experienced nanny would help me through pregnancy and childbirth smoothly. As for Alexander, I only mentioned him at the end, letting the Empress conveniently find him an idle official position. I sipped green tea. Under his expectant gaze, I slowly spoke, "Husband, just wait patiently." Alexander's eyes lit up. "Has Victoria decided? Can you reveal a little?" "The Bureau of Protocol. What does husband think?" "Official positions have high and low ranks, with or without real power. My sister agreed to let Alexander enter the Bureau of Protocol, managing diplomatic affairs. It sounds nice but is far inferior to the censorate low position, no real power." But for Alexander, who'd never been an official, just entering court was extremely satisfying. Indeed, hearing this, he couldn't hide his joy. "Victoria, marrying you is truly my greatest fortune." He rubbed his hands. "Then I'll go to the study to prepare. Rest early tonight." I nodded, watching his joyful departure, suddenly feeling my stomach churn, vomiting everything I'd just eaten. The next morning I was also lazy. The maids in my room tried every way to cheer me up, but I still had no interest. Emily hurried in from outside, whispering in my ear, "Miss, I have something interesting. Would you like to hear?" She pouted toward the northwest. "Go ahead." I leaned on the chair, covering my eyes with a handkerchief to block the harsh sunlight. Last night, after returning to his study, the master secretly sent his trusted servant to deliver something to Miss Snow. Do you know what it was? Pastries, bird's nest soup, or new tea? The little beauty in his heart had been crying and complaining for so long. Even if he doesn't care in front of others, he must compensate behind their backs, right? None of those. It was a letter. I couldn't help but laugh, even blowing away the handkerchief on my face. Opening my eyes, I asked with interest, "So how did Sophia react after reading it?" "According to our people." Miss Snow pressed the letter to her chest for a long time after reading it, still smiling foolishly. This morning, facing cold porridge, she's no longer picky and eats very carefully. "Miss, do you think the master mixed some drug in the ink that can make people willingly suffer?" "I don't know if Alexander's ink has drugs, I only know Sophia is sick, and not lightly. A man with no real actions, just empty words, yet she treats it like medicine, determined to feed on love. She'll definitely end up starving." Mother-in-law went to the mountain temple for half a month, returning before her son took office. Alexander and I went to pay respects. First, mother and son warmly greeted each other. Then mother-in-law fiddled with her prayer beads, coldly looking at me. "I heard that recently whenever Alexander goes to the rear courtyard, he only goes to your room. Married for 3 months with no movement in your belly, yet you monopolize the man. As the legitimate wife, how can you be so narrow-minded and monopolize favor?" She was seeking justice for her cousin's daughter. After all, she'd considered Sophia her daughter-in-law since childhood, naturally incomparable to an outsider like me. Alexander sat beside her, holding tea and pretending to drink, wishing he could openly declare he frequently visited Sophia's room. I wasn't angry either, bowing to admit fault. This daughter-in-law wasn't thoughtful. Mother-in-law was quite satisfied with my obedience, the corners of her mouth revealing a smile. "Then you know what to do." "Daughter-in-law knows." Alexander was still looking up drinking tea, but now involuntarily paused. He raised his cup to me. What could I do but fulfill his expectations? I smiled lightly, waving toward the door. "Husband's room has been empty. Besides myself, there's only Sister Snow who lacks husband's favor. So I specifically found a kind and beautiful concubine, hoping to help husband pass the time." During the conversation, a beauty with a graceful figure shyly entered, politely greeting everyone. "You mother-in-law," slammed her prayer beads on the table, grinding her teeth in anger, but I interrupted her, patting my chest fearfully asking, "Did daughter-in-law do something wrong?" Alexander answered for his mother, "You did nothing wrong. Victoria's action is very thoughtful." His mouth praised me, but his eyes couldn't leave the beauty's flower-like smile. I laughed coldly inside. Indeed, this is Melody Frost who fascinated Alexander in my previous life. In my previous life, Melody entered Alexander's room, but then she was a brothel courtesan who'd been enjoyed by thousands, later gifted to Alexander by a minor official as a bribe. In this life, I acted first, finding her and buying her at a high price. She was a singer about to auction her first night. For me, saving her from the sea of misery and arranging her as the Marquis's concubine, she was naturally extremely grateful. Moreover, Melody didn't expect the Marquis to be so young and handsome, smiling even more brilliantly, making Alexander unable to resist embracing her waist, hurriedly bidding farewell to mother-in-law. Mother-in-law's chest heaved even more violently, but her mouth couldn't stop me. I also followed along. At the door, Alexander only then noticed me. "Victoria, I just took office and will surely be busy. I can't come to your room daily. When I'm free, I'll come find you." I touched my belly, smiling faintly in agreement. "No need to come find me anymore. With a child, what do I need you for?" I was pregnant. Besides a few close people, outsiders didn't know. In my previous life's difficult birth, I couldn't stop thinking about it. The midwife said the baby's position was normal, not too big. Why the difficult birth? So this time I must be extremely careful. Fortunately, Alexander was bewitched by Melody, no longer coming to bother me, letting me peacefully nurture the pregnancy. Melody had rolled in the red dust for long, with the madam's careful instruction, knowing many bedroom positions. No man could escape. Alexander's position was idle. Returning early from the palace, he'd dive into her room. If he had unfinished business, he'd call Melody to the study to serve. Changing environments made their activities even more interesting. For a time, Melody's reputation was limitless. I could sit peacefully, but someone couldn't. Sophia, forgotten in the back of his mind, suffered even more. Her suffering wasn't because conditions worsened, but fear of her beloved changing his heart. So she used blood to dye silver thread, embroidering 2 lines of poetry on a handkerchief at night, having her personal maid Rose deliver it to Alexander. Coincidentally, Alexander was finding Melody less novel. Seeing this stirred some past tender feelings, so he went to Sophia's room for several days. Melody immediately acted cute and jealous. Alexander, to comfort her, rewarded her like flowing water. The rare glass hairpins, precious brocades, freshly hunted venison, besides my portion, all went to Melody. On the contrary, Sophia, laborious serving, got nothing. She didn't complain either, serving Alexander dressing early in the morning, deeply affectionate. I have brother Alexander's heart, that's enough. How can those worldly things compare to our feelings? Alexander was extremely moved, kissing her once. Only you understand me. In a blink, he gave the mercury mirror gifted by foreign envoys to Melody's room. And me. You see clearly, he knows how to love someone, but he doesn't want to. So is this love only on lips really true love? Under my arrangement, Melody learned that Alexander was secretly visiting Sophia. Feeling uneasy, when I returned from a banquet, I was urgently invited to Melody's courtyard. The woman, completely soaked, was wrapped in a cotton blanket pointing at Sophia, crying and complaining. Master, it was her who pushed me into the pond. My maid can testify. She must be jealous of my favor, so while Madame wasn't home, she wanted to harm me. She lowered her head crying pitifully. I glanced over, what a mess. Still not quickly having maids change clothes for sister. Harming your body like this. Melody sobbed. I don't want to harm my body either. I just want Master and Madame to see how vicious this woman is. Only then did she allow maids to surround her, turning into the bedroom. I looked toward Alexander sitting in the main seat. He held a folding fan, his expression constantly changing, wondering what he was thinking. Master, what do you think of this matter? He came back to his senses, took a deep breath, then asked the woman kneeling below, Sophia, do you have anything to say? Sophia, dazed from being yelled at, blankly opened her mouth. I didn't do it. I don't know why Sister Melody makes things difficult for me. I hope Brother Alexander will investigate clearly. Seeing the blue veins on Alexander's forehead bulging, after a long time he gritted his teeth. So you can't provide evidence proving you didn't push Melody? She falsely accuses me like this. I really don't know what to say. Looking at Sophia speechless, Alexander couldn't help taking another deep breath. Just then, a woman knelt beside Sophia, her personal maid Rose. Miss Frost found an excuse to send me away, leaving only Miss Snow alone. What the situation was then, besides the 3 of them, no one knows. Master, you know Miss Snow, she doesn't fight or grab. Why would she risk harming Miss Frost? In my view, I'm afraid Miss Frost jumped into the pond herself to have her maid give false testimony, thus framing Miss Snow. Master, don't just listen to one side and convict. Clear thinking, sharp tongue, a maid with schemes and courage. I rarely look directly at Rose like this. Sophia nodded repeatedly in agreement. These words hit Alexander's sore spot. He said softly, I know what kind of person Sophia is. She wouldn't do such things. According to your words, Miss Frost using a bitter trick isn't impossible. Impossible. Melody lifted the curtain and entered, angrily rushing to Alexander, grabbing his hand and placing it on her small belly. I'm already pregnant. How could I risk the master's flesh and blood? Sophia, being dragged away while confined, still muttered, Brother Alexander, you must believe me. In my previous life, there was a similar scene. Only that time I helped, spending much effort investigating the matter, returning Sophia's innocence and freedom. But this time, I don't plan to get involved, isn't being idle good. Only Emily, who likes getting to the bottom of things, occasionally mutters in my ear. The master secretly went to see Miss Snow again. The 2 embraced tightly. One muttered about time proving her innocence, saying he was protecting her. One was moved to tears, saying I knew you believed me. Clearly the master personally ordered Miss Snow's confinement, yet he still acts like that. Rather than having time for that, why not quickly send people to investigate the truth? Hearing this, I shook my head. A man who can't even protect his own woman, can he still be called a man? He fears my mother's family power and Melody's dirty tricks, so he abandoned his beloved, smearing her without wanting to give even a little respect, yet thinking he's protecting love. Not wanting to be open and honest like this, I'm afraid can only fool the stupid Sophia. Or rather, precisely because Sophia is willing to be blind for him, he dares treat her like a toy to trample. After I died in my previous life, he immediately elevated Sophia. So he's still immersed in his self-righteous deep affection. Women become signs to display true love. But then again, looking at Miss Snow's weak appearance, she doesn't seem like someone who would do this. Could it really be Miss Frost directing and acting herself? I flipped a page, eyes not lifting. Seeking wealth through danger, right? Emily moved closer and asked, so Miss Frost is pregnant. Miss, aren't you afraid? Afraid of what? She can't give birth anyway. In my previous life, Melody also once had a child. But having drunk too much contraceptive medicine in the brothel since young, her body was ruined. The baby in her belly couldn't last long before turning into a pool of blood flowing out. Moreover, even if by great fortune she gave birth, it's just a concubine's child, not affecting the position of the child in my belly. Alexander visited Sophia twice more, then stopped going. He also went less to Melody. Perhaps because of her pregnancy, he couldn't freely play with her anymore. Later, the front courtyard servants reported that recently Alexander often went to pleasure quarters with colleagues. Must have found someone new there. I never advised against it. Mother-in-law got angry again and went to the mountain to pray. Plus winter was approaching with many household matters. I was very busy. So busy I had no time to pay attention to Sophia being confined. The servants in her courtyard had all been reassigned since her confinement began. The bamboo garden only had her and Rose left. Everything had to be done by hand, not to mention facing lack of food, clothing, charcoal, and firewood. The two mistress and servant were hungry and cold all day, struggling with labor. I just pretended not to know. But even so, Sophia still didn't think to investigate the truth herself to clear her grievances. Like red spider lilies, hoping her true love would ultimately save her. Later, the two really couldn't bear it anymore. Just like in my previous life, they embroidered handkerchiefs day and night, hoping to secretly sell them outside for silver to improve their situation. But without me buying at high prices, their crooked embroidery from hands swollen red with cold basically couldn't sell. Struggling in vain, finally because of insufficient charcoal, broken windows, plus the bamboo garden being in a remote, damp, dark place, soon both mistress and servant got rheumatism, unable to sleep night after night, their painful groans unknown if Alexander knew. Now thinking back, in my previous life Alexander brutally tortured Sophia to show loyalty to me, simply relying on me supporting him from behind. After I helped the first time, he knew my kind heart definitely wouldn't let his beloved suffer too much. But without me, would he really reduce others' suffering? I'm afraid not. Not long after, Melody suddenly came to find me. She knelt in the hall, her voice earnest. Being saved by Madam from my lowly status, this child in my belly naturally belongs to Madam too. Coming from humble origins, keeping the child by my side, I fear corrupting their character and tainting the Marquis's bloodline. I hope after the child is born, I can bring them to be raised by you. I beg Madam to grant this. I gently set down my teacup, smile unchanged. Since it's already in your belly, it has fate with you. How could I take away what you love? Just peacefully nurture the pregnancy. Madam. Melody still wanted to say something but was cut off by Emily. Miss Frost. Madam just took over the shops and farm management and is very tired, needing rest. Hearing this, she stopped speaking. Knowing if she continued pleading it might displease me, she forced a smile, bowed and left. Watching her leave in a daze, Emily is very puzzled. Miss Frost is too timid. The child isn't even born yet, she's already afraid she can't teach well. I sighed. It's also a mother's heart. Melody both sought an umbrella of protection and wanted to find a bright future for her child. She didn't know I was pregnant. If I agreed, naturally I'd protect her safe delivery. When this child was brought under my name, raised by the mistress, growing up would be more respected outside. Emily softly owed, pouting. Wonder what she's afraid of. The master clearly dotes on her. Look at that huge knight, glowing pearl on her head, the bright golden, green silk bracelet on her wrist. Not to mention the brocade clothes on her body, one piece costs 1,000 taels. I see her dress no worse than a young miss from a noble family. Before this girl finished speaking, Nanny Grace suddenly spoke urgently. Madam, avoid her from now on. I looked at her serious gaze and immediately realized something was wrong. Why? Nanny Grace nodded gravely. The sachet she wears contains sweet flag grass. Sweet flag grass comes from the southwestern Miao region. It has a fresh fragrance but promotes blood circulation. If pregnant women smell it long, they'll either miscarry or have difficult childbirth. When I served consort Shun, I once saw this thing. Her later words, I could no longer hear. My whole body trembled with cold, my mind buzzing. Sachet. Sweet flag grass. Promotes blood circulation, difficult childbirth. In my previous life, Alexander once personally gave me a sachet. The fragrance was exactly like what's on Melody. He said it was a personal token gifted to me, hoping I'd never forget his feelings for me. So I wore it day and night, never taking it off. But unexpectedly, there were tricks inside. Nanny Grace and Emily, seeing I wasn't well, quickly supported me. This old servant talked too much and frightened Madam. Miss doesn't have the sachet. Miss, don't be afraid. I tightly grasped their hands, lips trembling speechlessly. 2 lines of tears flowed continuously down my cheeks. Overwhelming hatred enveloped me. So my death in the previous life was caused by others. It was my husband. It was my child's father who personally killed both of us. I once thought he was just thoughtless and meaningless. But unexpectedly, he was even more cruel and vicious than I imagined. He's a devil. After resting for several days, my heart became incomparably calm. Though reborn, I hated Alexander for playing with me, but never thought of taking his life. I only wanted him to not live comfortably. But now it seems, this person cannot be kept. Just then, a sister Rose appeared in the manor. Originally Sophia's maid Rose, not wanting to continue suffering, bribed the guards, secretly escaped from the bamboo garden, and hung herself on Alexander's bed. She had beautiful features and was good at acting docile and touching. Alexander naturally didn't refuse. Thus the bamboo garden only had Sophia left. She waited in the room expecting to be cleaned, piles of dirty clothes, miserably waiting for Rose's return. She didn't know Rose, who once willingly worked like a horse for her, would never return. When I arrived, I saw Sophia propping her chin with one hand, sitting in the only sunny spot in the courtyard, staring blankly at the sky, still wearing white clothes. No wonder Rose cried, complaining that every day there were endless clothes to wash. In a broken courtyard without servants, some things must be done personally. Normal clothes easily get dirty, let alone white clothes. Also hard on Rose. Sophia heard movement but didn't turn, already calling, Rose. There's no Rose in the manor anymore, only Sister Rose. Sophia didn't expect it was me. Startled, she turned around, stunned for a moment before standing to bow. But seemingly from joint pain, her movements were slow and stiff. Madam, what are you saying? I don't understand. By now Emily had brought a chair for me. With soft thick cushions, she gently helped me sit before I spoke. Sister doesn't understand why we have another sister. She stepped back several small steps, unable to believe it, muttering softly, impossible. How can this be? Clearly she said she'd rather die for love. How could? Besides, brother Alexander loves me so much, how could he accept someone beside me? There must be something wrong. Definitely something wrong somewhere. I smiled softly. What could be wrong? Man has feelings, woman has intention, naturally a good match. No, impossible. Brother Alexander loves me so much. He wouldn't treat me like this. He told me, heaven never ages, love hard to sever. Hearts of silk nets, in the nets are thousands of knots. We truly love each other. Sophia held back tears, shouting in rebuttal. Looking crazed. I wasn't angry, but Emily couldn't stand it. Adjusting the thick snow fox fur cloak for me, adding charcoal to change the brazier, she rolled her eyes mockingly. Right. Your brother Alexander loves you most. Loves you most so he puts you in the most broken place. Loves you most so he confines making eat leftover food. Loves you most so he butterflies everywhere eating and drinking well but never remembers his former fiancée. So this is love. Then our miss absolutely cannot let the master love even a little bit. After all, our miss still wants to enjoy all the wealth and glory. Sophia's tears finally fell, sobbing in protest. What do you know? He acts this way because he sees your miss has an empress sister and doesn't dare offend her. Emily nodded. Oh, our miss has an empress sister. Does Miss Frost have one? Does Sister Rose have one? Their food and dress are no worse than our miss. Only you live worse than a lowly servant yet still feel touched here. You've already been trampled in the mud by him, yet you still lick his shoe soles saying thank you for the grace. I think you're 1,000 times more stupid than the fool on the street. Seeing Emily's words getting more excessive, I spoke to stop her, ordering her to withdraw. Sophia, thrown into shock, after a long time came back to her senses, collapsing on the ground crying pitifully. I stood up, approaching to look down at her nearly broken state. Right, I even found out something you'd surely be interested in. Previously, when Governor Snow was convicted, the most crucial evidence was presented by the Hamilton household. She blankly raised her head looking at me, eyes deadly still. No, impossible. How could Brother Alexander betray me? How could he destroy my family? We clearly. I coldly hummed, raising my head to look at the empty space. Why not? Kicking you away, he could marry into the Empress's mother's family. Then pretending kindness to take you in. Having both a virtuous wife and beautiful concubine, killing two birds with one stone. Isn't that wonderful? After speaking, I turned to leave, but suddenly heard a thud behind me. Sophia had knocked her head hard, then propped herself up, kneeling before me at my feet. Blood mixed with tears slowly flowed down. Her eyes were red, gaze tragically desperate, laughing miserably. "Madam, please have mercy on me. My pregnancy was already 4 months. Seeing my belly gradually growing, I knew I couldn't hide it anymore, so I took initiative to find Alexander. Hearing I was pregnant, his first reaction was shock, then the corners of his mouth forced a smile. This is indeed good news." I pretended not to notice the worry in his eyes, gently caressing my small belly, smiling contentedly. "Mother always urged wanting a little heir. Now we really have one." Hearing the 3 words, "little heir," his brows twitched again. He didn't want the Hamilton household falling into hands of a child not born from the woman he loved. "How does Victoria know it's a boy?" "Whether boy or girl, I'll love them." "I think so too." Knowing he couldn't refuse, he had to agree. Returning to my mother's home, being cared for by Mother, I finally breathed a sigh of relief, officially entering peaceful pregnancy nurturing life. While my side had calm seas, the Hamilton household had waves before settling, new ones rising. Before leaving, I used the excuse that Alexander lacked people to care for him and released Sophia. Alexander naturally agreed. Long separation beats newlyweds. Plus Sophia deliberately flattered, the two lived inseparably. Sophia no longer stubbornly wore white, pale yellow, light blue, powder pink, dream red, whatever clothes were bright, she wore them. Using the cosmetics I deliberately gave her, she dressed gorgeously, making Alexander's true love unable to look away. Next was Melody's child still couldn't be kept. Although she no longer wore the sachet following my reminder, because of her constitution, the child still couldn't be saved. Rose was left afraid of meeting her old master and being embarrassed, so she also avoided everything, not fighting for anything. For a time Sophia monopolized Alexander's favor. Whenever servants came to report the household situation, there was always one sentence at the end: "That Miss Snow still regularly burns incense. The master likes it very much." After a period, seeing I still hadn't returned to the household, Alexander came to urge me several times. But having already left, how could I return to the wolf's side? Seeing he couldn't summon me, he sent Sophia. She didn't invite me back, but lowered her head obediently, recounting the household situation. This wasn't much different from what I already knew. After talking a few sentences, she mentioned that fragrance. I cut short, accidentally reminding her while trimming flowers growing sideways, "Just remember to take the antidote on time." She gritted her teeth saying, I escaped death by a hair's breadth. With revenge not yet taken, naturally I must treasure life." I glanced at her. Progressing quite quickly. Indeed, innocence cannot overcome hardship. In the end, Sophia presented a familiar sachet. "This is what the master specifically sent me to deliver to Madame. The master says this item is like his heart, hoping Madame carries it daily, never forgetting his feelings for you." My heart surged with intense hatred again. I clenched my fists. "Here it comes." He raises the butcher's knife once more. Seeing me silent, Sophia unusually also said nothing more. Having delivered the token, "I take my leave," I softly agreed, not detaining her. But when she reached the threshold, she suddenly turned and knelt, lowering her head, saying nothing. After a long time she gritted her teeth with determination. "Madam, you cannot carry this sachet." I smiled. "I know." She suddenly raised her head, meeting my eyes that understood everything. "You already knew everything." I threw the sachet into the brazier, letting flames devour the exquisite embroidery. "If the master likes that fragrance so much, then burn more." Smoke rose hazily. I lowered my eyes. "When the time comes, the child has only a few months before being born. At that time, we cannot let it bear the stigma of patricide." Early summer, the young Marquis Hamilton suddenly passed away. After the imperial physician's examination, the conclusion was he died from a stroke. The woman he loved most died at the moment of their deepest intimacy. I returned to the household to manage the overall situation. Emily returned first to meet me, whispering instructions in my ear. Already handled cleanly. I nodded lightly, then cried loudly, holding my pregnant belly, falling before the coffin. Master? How could you leave like this? How pitiful for me and the child in my belly. How shall we live from now on? Crying painfully, looking frightful. Others, seeing this, gossiped even more, saying the Marquis Hamilton, newly married 1 year, already had a child in his concubine's belly, looking like a gentleman but actually a lustful person behind. Truly can't judge by appearances. Only suffering for the madam who was devoted to him, now must struggle alone to raise an orphan from the womb. I had only cried 2 sentences when I heard commotion outside, mother-in-law's cursing. Return my son to me. Return my son. I raised such an ingrate. Wasted my good treatment of you. Alexander loved you so much, yet you, lowly woman, took his life. Being attacked and torn at by her, Sophia endured the beating and scolding, lowering her head without speaking, making her expression unclear. Seeing me, mother-in-law redirected her attack. You're the mistress of the household, not taking good care of your husband, staying at your mother's home all day. You also bear responsibility for Alexander's death. She charged at me to push. Though Emily blocked in front of me so she didn't touch me at all, I felt my belly tighten. A warm flow came from below. Emily, Nanny Grace, I think I'm about to give birth. In the chaos, I smoothly delivered the child. Right after birth, people from the palace arrived to read the imperial edict, conferring upon me the title of first-rank noble lady. The child also directly inherited the title, becoming the youngest marquise in court. No one objected, only my mother-in-law, rumored to have intended to kill her own grandchild, already grief-stricken. Hearing this, got angry and had a stroke. Not long after, she passed away. When things settled, Rose came to apologize. Previously, I betrayed my mistress as a faithless person. Now I specially come to apologize, hoping Madam will forgive. I signaled Emily to help her up. Not such a terrible thing. But some punishment is still needed. I'll punish you to be the manager at my newly opened shop. Do you agree? Rose was so happy she cried, continuously kowtowing. This servant is extremely willing. Thank you, madam, for your grace. I had investigated her background, originally in the incense business. Later her father got addicted to gambling and pawned the brocade shop. Before being sold, she helped her parents do business for a long time, having definite business acumen. Rather than letting her waste talent in the household, better to release her outside to be independent. The opposite was Melody. She feared I'd drive her out, crying pitifully. Please, madam, don't send me away. I've wandered the red dust half my life. It wasn't easy coming to the household to enjoy fortune. I don't want to continue suffering. She made me laugh. Understood, she'd experienced many hardships, not easy to obtain peace. Then I'll raise her for life, just a convenient matter anyway. Sophia came last. She again wore white clothes like when we first met. Is this mourning for your mother? Or for your brother Alexander? She slowly knelt. Her eyes revealed calmness and indifference. Neither. I'm mourning my wronged love. Madam has granted grace to 2 people. I also want to request one thing. Please, madam, let me go. I raised my head from the cradle, looking at her with interest. Why? Isn't staying in the household good? Home is gone, companion dead, revenge taken, love shattered. Nothing in this world makes me linger anymore. Perhaps I should go outside, travel around. Maybe find meaning to continue living. I agreed with her. Sophia took the travel money I gave and went to seek her own freedom and dreams under the vast sky. After she left, Emily couldn't help asking, Miss, you didn't investigate her mother's family matter before. How did you know the master provided evidence? Whether I knew or not no longer matters. After all, she already believed it, right? In the end, Sophia was also pitiful. Though stupid and ugly, she wasn't evil to the heavens. If she was willing to become my blade, I'd give her a path to live, accumulating virtue for myself. If she wasn't willing, I'm afraid she'd now share Alexander's fate. Gentle breeze blowing, warm sunshine. I lowered my head, gently kissing my peacefully sleeping child's face. Previous life's hatred repaid. This life's obstacles removed. The story cleverly exposes the true face of false love through small details. The lesson about self, respect and clarity in love is profound. Lesson from the story: true love isn't measured by grand gestures or sweet words, but by respect, honesty, and genuine care. Victoria's tragic tale teaches us that deception, even disguised as protection, destroys trust and relationships. Her husband Alexander claimed to protect his true love through cruelty, but real love doesn't require such twisted games. The story reminds us, judge people by their actions, not their words. Don't sacrifice your dignity for someone who won't openly cherish you. Most importantly, when given a second chance at life, choose wisdom over revenge, protect yourself first, and surround yourself only with those who truly value you.